Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so Trae Young, uh, he has requested a trade from the Atlanta Hawks, and from what I understand, he has 4 teams on his list. And while those names are in my head, I figured I better record. Heat, Wizards, Lakers, Celtics is what has been reported. Uh, and the thing about it is, I think the only team that's probably going to be willing to do that of those four is probably the Wizards, and I think that's why they're on the list. I don't think he wants to necessarily be a Wizard, particularly. It just looks like a very realistic destination. And you figure if they make the trade, you want to have been on record saying you want to be there. I personally think the Wizards have a lot of different directions they can go. They have assets that they can trade for to get out of this win later timeline that they're in, so it shouldn't be a problem. I just wonder if they trade the wrong assets trying to acquire Trae Young, do they have a overlap in Trae Young like pieces? And personally, me, I wouldn't necessarily opt out of that timeline if I'm the Wizards, because I don't think I can win a championship within the next 2 or 3 years if I'm the Wizards if I do something like this necessarily. I like Alex Sarr, Koulibaly, George, interesting. I don't know if those guys have to go in a trade. But if I'm the Hawks, I'm going to want somebody like that. What the Hawks already have is a bunch of guards themselves. If I'm not mistaken, they probably don't need guards. You got Dyson Daniels and playing good ball. So your backcourt is almost solidified. Do I want to bring in a Trae Johnson if I'm the Hawks? Now, if you bring in a third team, you can send stuff anywhere. So that's not really necessarily a thing. I would say CJ McCollum's contract is going to have to go to match salaries. Probably the expiring contract of Middleton will likely be sent to Atlanta or somewhere in this trade, I think. I haven't done the matches on the salaries, but I don't think the Wizards have too much salary stuff outside of that because the Wizards have a bunch of young players on rookie contracts. So the guy they just drafted, Trae Johnson, he's like a Trae Young. He's another scoring guard that doesn't really know, not really known for defending. You could be a potent offensive team, but are you building a championship around two undersized, go-to scorers? And then they got the other Johnson kid that they got from from Milwaukee. I believe his name is Johnson as well. He's balling. Of course, you got Cam Whitmore, who's out with the blood clots. I don't know if he returns this season at all, but he's part of your future. Maybe you send him to Atlanta. Maybe. You got stuff like Corey Kispert, players like Corey Kispert. So yeah, if I'm the Hawks and I'm sending Trae Young out, man, I want Koulibaly. I want Sarr. Like, you're probably not going to be able to part ways with Sarr because Sarr is probably the anchor for the Wizards next to Trae Young. If you're bringing in Trae Young, it's going to be Sarr and Young and maybe like George or Koulibaly. I don't know if you can keep all of them and make a trade for Trae Young. I don't think so. They also have picks they can throw in if they decide they don't want to throw in some young talent. I'm sure they have their picks, so that can go to Atlanta as well. And Atlanta has been a team that really likes to acquire picks right now. They've been on a mission to kind of get pick rich over the last several years, so they're going to want picks in this trade for sure. So I can see with that being the case, the Wizards giving up some future picks and maybe being able to retain this core of George, Koulibaly, Sarr, and maybe even Johnson, depending on how many picks they want to throw in. I think Atlanta likes picks a lot, too, just looking at how they've been acting over the last 2 years. And they should want to rebuild a little bit. With and Dyson, they probably are not a rebuild team, but those guys aren't also older, seasoned, really. They're just starting to enter their prime. I don't know. Atlanta has some stuff there, man. Of course, Okongwu, I'm definitely not moving him, regardless of what I'm trying to do with my timeline. Porzingis, I'm probably trying to offload in this trade if I can. Send him back to Washington if I can. So, like, these are things that I'm thinking about in regards to this Atlanta-Washington potential trade. I haven't had a chance to look at what's possible, so I'm just winging it. I don't really know if any of this is actually how this goes. I'm sure you involve 3 or 4 other teams, so if that's the case, you don't have to worry about some of these pieces landing in these specific spots. But if I'm parting ways with anything and I'm Washington, it's probably going to be future picks if I'm going to exit this timeline and bring in Trae Young, picks are not as important so long as I can keep the core of guys I've already drafted. George is not moving in this trade if I'm the Wizards. He's off limits. His jump from year 1 to year 2 has been substantial. I think he's going to be an all-star. I'm not moving him. Sarr as well. Koulibaly, I probably move if I have to. I think he's cool, but I also think he's, he's a nice, as we call in Lakerland, banshee type player. I don't think he'll ever really be that great of a shooter, but he can be an all-star level banshee someday. Bunch of steals, bunch of blocks, bunch of rebounds. A couple of assists and then some points. Like he's gonna fill up the box score, but I don't think he's ever gonna be that great of a shooter or scorer in my opinion. So I'd probably move him if I'm Washington, rather than to go down the path when he starts hitting free agency and wants like $100 million. I'm not gonna want to give him that, based on what I've seen so far. So he would probably be the guy sent to Atlanta. And if you're Atlanta, moving on from Trae Young, I heard they're interested in moving on from Ricochet too. I wouldn't if I'm doing this. If I'm doing this, you hold on to Ricochet. So yeah, man. For me, I think the most realistic option in this situation is the Wizards. And the Heat could be as well. The Lakers are absolutely not making this trade. I don't see the Lakers doing anything like that. It makes zero sense for us to do that, honestly. I would love to have Trae Young in a nutshell, but I do believe when you bring players to certain situations, if it's an absolutely bad fit, you could really diminish the value of the player themselves. I'm all on board with bringing in Trae Young, but not for us to have some ridiculously bad defensive small ball lineup. I would not be happy with that. I got Luka, I got Austin, I got LeBron. Now I'm bringing in Trae Young. I'll probably move in Austin in this trade. I would rather have Austin going forward just off the strength of the size. And I think Austin's a better defender than Trae Young, a more capable defender than Trae Young, even though neither one of them play any defense, honestly. At least Austin, I know, is going to, draw charges better than anybody or anything, So, like, the Lakers, he's had conversations about becoming a Laker, but that was back when we had Anthony Davis, LeBron James. You bring in Trae Young, it makes sense. And with Luka, this is absolutely not going to make any sense. And we're going to be the worst defensive team of all time if we do that. So, no, I don't see the Lakers doing anything like that. If we did something like that, I'm not going to sit up here and cuss and fuss, because I think the more talent you have, the more likely you can win basketball games. Trae Young, I don't underestimate. I think he's an MVP level player when he's healthy. Has he been healthy over the last several years? No. But have I forgotten this is a bona fide superstar? No, I haven't forgotten. And a grifty guy who's going to get to the line 25 times a night? No, I haven't forgotten that. Do I want Trae Young on my team? Yes. All teams should want Trae Young on their team. But if you are a bad defensive team who has size issues, you do not need to be bringing Trae Young to a situation. No, absolutely not. And his personality is not one that I think is going to thrive in situations where he's unhappy or where he's not getting his touches. So you already got a situation like that with LeBron and Luka and Austin. They already struggling to figure out how to manage that. And Trae Young with a volume like his, there's no way he can coexist with Luka Doncic, LeBron James, Austin Reeves, or any combination of those players. I don't think he can coexist with those people at all. So if I'm the Lakers, I'm 100% out. We love Trae Young. We would have loved to have brought in Trae Young before Luka became a Laker. But now that Luka's a Laker, we do not have any desire to acquire Trae Young, in my opinion. So that's where I'm at with that. It makes no sense. And the Boston Celtics, they're not doing that. I can tell you right now, the Boston Celtics, in order to do that, would likely have to move stuff that doesn't make sense to move. And when he gets to the Celtics, if they were able to retain their superstar contracts, which I have my questions about, in a Trae Young trade, can you make any combination of things work, bringing Trae Young in without sending Jaylen Brown out? I don't think so. He's going to be playing Anthony Simons' role. Ask Anthony Simons how he's enjoying being a Celtic. When you see how far his value and his usage has been diminished in Boston. It's not good for a small guard who doesn't play defense to be in Boston right now. That is a bad situation. And if I'm Boston, what am I moving? If I'm not moving Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum, which is that's not possible, then I'm have to move who? Derek White? Hell no, I'm not moving Derek White if I'm the Celtics. No. No. That reminds me of when the Milwaukee Bucks moved Dame Lillard for Drew Holiday for Dame Lillard. You don't do that. You don't do that. Derek White is probably one of the most covetable players in all of basketball because of his little ego. His ego's not big. He can play with a bunch of superstars, put up all-star numbers, play both sides of the floor, hit threes constantly, draw fouls. He's pretty much another Drew Holiday. I'm not moving Derek White. I would rather have Derek White than Trae Young in that situation. Trae Young has a higher ceiling, but Derek White fits better in that situation and most situations. So I'm telling you right now, Trae Young don't have a prayer getting to Boston. If he's serious about getting to Boston, it ain't happening. If he's serious about getting to the Lakers, it ain't happening. So it's Washington or it's Miami. And Miami, if I have to negotiate between Miami or Atlanta or Washington, I'm probably going to want to negotiate with Washington if I'm the Hawks. Because Miami, they got stuff that they put price tags on things that they have that don't make any sense. They have a bad reputation for sending players out and they end up playing trash when they get there. Trust me, as a Laker fan, you got to be very careful doing any deals with Miami because they have a certain system. And a lot of times that system makes players look a certain way. You get them to your team and they don't look that way, man. We've been through this more than once with the Miami Heat as a Laker fan. I don't really like Miami like that. I have a bad taste in my mouth about them as it pertains to acquiring their players. So with that being said, if I'm Atlanta, maybe they have something I want. Maybe they have a piece or two that might be intriguing to me. I always say, for me with Miami, the first thing I'm going to be thinking about if I'm sending out a superstar is give me Khalil Ware. I know most people are going to say Jaime Jaquez or Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero has played 6 games this season, y'all. 6 games on the season. The boy's made of glass. He's made of a breakaway glass at that. I have absolutely no faith in Tyler Hero to play basketball professionally. I just don't. I think he's one of the most injury-prone players in the game. That doesn't mean that I don't respect his game. I think he's an all-star level talent. He's proven that when he's healthy, he can put up all-star numbers every night. He is immediately a type of guy who gets on the floor and goes crazy. But we talk about people like Anthony Davis who have injury issues, and Porzingis and stuff like that. Tyler Hero's another one of those guys, man. Can't count on him to play long. He's going to be in there for about 3 weeks, play all-star ball, and he's going down. And he's going to be out for 3 months. No. I'm leaving him right where he at. They love him that much? Cool. Keep him. Because I'm not about to trade Trae Young for Tyler Hero, and then he'd be out for the season less than 3 weeks after bringing him in. No. If I'm Atlanta, no. Jaime Jaquez, I think, is a nice player. He's shown that he's kind of breaking out this year. So he should be covetable. I'm not down on him. Again, he's another one of them guys where I wonder if once he leaves Miami, he's going to be doing the same things. But he's been good this year, man. He's been really good. So I'm definitely up for bringing him in if I'm Atlanta. I think he'd be a nice piece to have. But for me, it's Khalil Ware, man. It's Khalil. That's the golden ticket in Miami for me. I don't know what everybody else is thinking about. Bam Adebayo is starting to reach that space where he's in his prime. I don't really need Bam if I'm Atlanta. Not necessarily. If I'm replacing Porzingis, give me Khalil Ware. I'm slapping him right next to Okongwu, right next to Noel, Asa Newell, whatever. And I'm going to have a front court that's going to carry me into the future. So, and I also want Yaku Shonis in theory because I really like him before he ends up becoming what he's going to become. You get him before it even becomes that. Because he's a turnover machine, but he's also a very flashy, connective passer, point guard type dude who's going to be a lot of fun to watch. So if you're sending out somebody like that, you probably want to bring somebody like that in. He's a development project for sure. He's going to take a couple years, but when he gets where he's going, he'll be dope. So I'm a big fan of Yaku Shonis. I'm going to want him thrown in any deal I do with Miami. So for me, if I'm sending, and I don't even know if the numbers work. They probably don't for Trae Young's contract. But if I'm doing a deal with Miami, I'm going to want stuff that Miami is not going to want to give me, man. They're going to be talking about, what's homie's name? The one that's gotten in all the trouble with the gambling stuff. They going to want to send him out. What does Miami have? They're Wiggins. They didn't inflate Wiggins' value so much. I'm like, man, Wiggins ain't half that, man. He ain't worth half of what Miami's talking about he's worth. They're going to want to send him to Atlanta. Yeah, that's exactly what they're going to want to do. They're going to want to send Scary Terry and Andrew Wiggins to Atlanta and maybe like 2 picks. And they're going to think that's going to get it done. And you know, if Atlanta's up for it, God bless them. Me, I'm giving them the finger when they do that. I'm giving them the absolute finger. If I'm sending you Trae Young, you sending me Khalil Ware, Yakushonis, and whatever the salary match would have to be then. You can give me Wiggins and make the salary match. This is Trae Young we talking about. You're going to go forward in your future with Trae Young and Tyler Hero, and you expect to win the East with that. So you're going to give me one of them 2 centers that you got stacked next to each other. That's what you're going to do. And, of course, they're going to hang up the phone because if I'm Miami, I'm not moving Khalil Ware at all. Don't get it twisted. They should not move Khalil Ware. So I don't think Miami gets involved in this unless Atlanta's enamored with Andrew Wiggins and Scary Terry and picks. I don't think Miami moves Bam. Bam's like a cornerstone there. They just signed him. They love him. He's their guy. I don't see him leaving Miami ever. So Khalil Ware and Bam should likely be Heat after this. Tyler Hero, if I'm Miami, I think they value him a lot more than I do. I think they look at him as a guy they drafted who's developed very well, is all-star level player. They've seen what he looks like. He's great when he's out there. I'm sure they don't want to move him. Maybe that's what Atlanta wants. I don't know. I have no idea what Atlanta's preference in this type of situation would be. But I'll tell you this. When a guy says he wants to be traded, his value goes down. And I don't know that his value was already where it needed to be to begin with because he's been hurt all season. He's a short guy, attitude problems at times. It could be a little iffy, you know. He's been accused of not really working well with people, so that might have diminished his value some in the market, especially with him up for extension. So it's a lot of stuff docked there. You got a mark for that, a mark for that, a mark for that, a mark for that, and in the end, he may not be worth more than Andrew Wiggins, Scary Terry in a first-round pick, based on all them damn marks on his name. With that being said, I might have to amend all of my thoughts about where else he may be willing to be able to be traded because of it. If his value isn't expensive, there should be some other teams that are interested. You know, that's what it comes down to. If his value is docked to the degree that I think it may be, you're talking about potentially other teams like Dallas probably should be getting involved. Sacramento is always looking to give somebody something to bring themselves something weird. Golden State Warriors never have enough small guards. They would love to get Trae Young there and slap him next to Steph Curry. I'm sure they would. Steve Kerr would have a ball with that. Yeah. And look, in a crazy world, man, as a Los Angeles Laker fan, I could bring Trae Young here and bring him off the damn bench, bro. He gonna hate me for that. But I'm going to stack my team up to the ceiling. You feel me? When it comes down to it. If I can trade Rui Hachimura and expiring Gabe Vincent, you understand what I'm saying? And expiring somebody else, whatever. If I can get him for the cheap, then I'm just bring him here. Like, you'll take Rui and Gabe for real? Like, if somebody's stupid enough to actually do something like that, which I don't believe Atlanta is, but if they were stupid enough to do something like that, then of course you're going to pull the trigger. Same thing with Boston. So you telling me you're going to take Neemias Queta and somebody else, some random player on the back of my bench, and I can get Trae Young? In that equation, yeah. You probably just bring him here and make the fit work wherever way you can. But the role that he's going to be playing in them situations is going to suck. That's the problem. The role he's going to play in LA is going to suck. The role he's going to play in Boston is going to suck. He's going to leave. You're essentially paying for a rental. He's not going to stay there. You understand what I'm saying? He's not going to stay there. So, like, I think this is one of them situations where it's like, you know the teams that are interested. Washington's interested. So you slap Washington on there, and then you slap some teams on there that you know are not interested so that you can essentially say, I have a list. And then from there, hopefully stiff arm some of the teams that you don't want to go to. I think that's what he's doing. Because you know the Laker fit. Trae Young is a very smart basketball player. He know that fit ain't no good. He's a very smart basketball player. He know the fit in Boston is trash. There's no way he's going to have fun in those situations at all. And he knows those organizations are likely not going to trade for him. And he knows once he gets there, if it sucks, he's going to leave immediately. So Washington is the team that I think is most interested. Washington is the team that likely has the assets. Washington is the team that I think he's ultimately going to land on, unless a team comes out of nowhere that we don't see, or somebody's willing to shake up things and change things around. Like a team like Memphis, for example. Memphis says, okay, we'll give you Ja. I can see that. Or, the trade that makes the most sense on paper, I think, is Dallas AD for Trae Young. But if you're Atlanta, I don't know if you make that trade necessarily, because now you're bringing AD to a weird, funky kind of lineup, and you got to negotiate with AD. I don't know if they're going to want to re-sign with him. He ain't going to probably want to re-sign with Atlanta, so it's just a rental situation for AD. That doesn't really get you over the hump to win a championship in Atlanta, so no. I think the defense is really intriguing when you got Dyson Daniels, AD, Porzingis. That's a hell of a lineup, but are you actually winning the championship? No, you're not beating OKC even if you get to the finals. So, for me, in the injury-prone nature of Porzingis and AD, I don't think I'd want to put that together necessarily. No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't necessarily. But they got the backups to make it work with Okongwu, although I wouldn't have Okongwu backed up. He would be starting over Porzingis. But that's not the point. They got Noel and Okongwu. If anybody can put together players like that and not feel bad about it, would be a team with that type of depth in the front court. But nevertheless, I think that that makes sense on paper. You can match those salaries without having to throw anything else in. They're both superstar level players with diminishing value, up for negotiation. So I think Atlanta would be very happy to bring in Trae Young because they could use a point guard, Dallas rather. I don't know. After that, it's like, okay, Cooper Flag, Trae Young could be kind of intriguing, but now you've sent out Anthony Davis, so now you're hoping that Derek Lively can get healthy, and Derek Lively has not proven he can be healthy, so you might have a layup line once again like they had several years ago with Luka Doncic. They didn't have any damn center. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. If I'm the Dallas Mavericks, I don't know if I want to re-sign Anthony Davis based on what they've seen from Anthony Davis. I don't think so. But if I'm bringing in Trae Young, I don't know if I'm going to keep Trae Young. I don't know, He probably would resign with Dallas, actually. Cooper Flag's in place, so. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of surprised Dallas isn't on the list, to be honest with you. I'm kind of surprised. Maybe he just doesn't want to cross the Luka Doncic picket line, maybe? I don't know. But I am kind of surprised the team that drafted him is not on the list. Because I do think they're a realistic destination. The Sacramento Kings may mess around and trade for Trae Young because the Sacramento Kings don't have a conscience, bro. Like, they're the basketball franchise equivalent of a player that just takes shots at absolute random no matter what. Like, they just launch. You know what I mean? Like, Marcus Smart style, just be launching for no reason. Just launching. Who cares if it goes in or not? I just want to get shots up. They are the equivalent of that. All the other teams you think of, there's some logic attached to what it is they're doing. Sacramento, they'll take anything, dude. Literally. Anything. And so I would not want to go there if I'm Trae Young, and I think that's the main team that's interested in him that I think he's trying to stiff arm. I think he would desperately like to go anywhere but Sacramento. Emmanuel Quickly, Toronto, I think those contracts match. If I'm Atlanta, I don't want Quickly. I'm cool. I'm going to want things from Toronto on top of that Quickly contract. Maybe RJ. And Toronto's not going to want to do that, I don't think. Or I'm going to want some of them young kids that they got. Jamal Shead and, Colin Murray Boyles. And, I'm going to want stuff like that. They ain't going to want to do that. They ain't going to do that. So I don't think Toronto will get involved, but they do find themselves with the Quickly contract to move. And I think they can slot him in the Quickly role, and he'll be better than Quickly. Clearly, you expect that. So I don't think Toronto. I don't know if he want to resign there. I don't think he has any desire to live in Canada, not necessarily. I don't think they're going to be good enough to win a championship or anything like that. Washington is probably the spot, y'all. As I just think about it and just try to, push my mind around. I'm saying Washington's the team I'd want to negotiate with if I'm Atlanta. He put them on the list, so it should be no reason why they don't do a conversation that can get very serious with the Wizards at this point. I don't see one reason why he wouldn't end up a Wizard, honestly. unless another team jumps in. But the Miami Heat, they just have questionable assets that they would want to give me, and I don't have that problem with the Wizards. Wizards got picks. Wizards got young players, and guys with real upside, guys that I can slot in to replace Trae Young. If you give me Trae Johnson, I can replace Trae Young and have another Trae Young 3 years from now when he fully develops in Atlanta. So yeah, Washington just seems like the better spot for me if I'm Atlanta trying to negotiate a trade for Trae Young. And Trae Young going to Washington, I'm gonna tell Trae Young the truth, man. I don't think your team's gonna be that much better than the Atlanta Hawks is. I think you just kind of make them the Hawks again. Alex Sarr is a nice piece, but he ain't Wemby. He ain't gonna be like that. I think George could potentially be very, very good someday, but there's some deficiencies there as well, and that's gonna kind of be the core group around you. I think the defensive group that he has in Atlanta complements him a bit better than probably what he's gonna have in Washington when he gets there. If they happen to move Koulibaly or happen to move Sarr, I think Washington's defense could potentially be pretty terrible. Their offense, it's going to be really good with him down there. He's going to win games, but like 7th in the East at best. And we're not talking about this season. Next season, when I don't know, bro. I think it's a tough world for him, man, because he was hoping to be where Luka's at. He wanted to be that piece next to AD, next to Bron. And then when Bron leave, it would be him and AD. That was kind of the dream for a guy like Trae Young, in my opinion. Listen to the rumors over the last several years. He really excited about being a Laker. When we made that trade for Luka to Don, it put an end to all of that. Does he want to be next to Luka to Don, vying for opportunities at shots? I just playing off ball. All of that looked crazy to me. That looks nuts. So, nah, I just don't think the Lakers have the role at all that he would be thriving in. Even when LeBron leaves, the role still looks crazy. Even when Austin Reeves, if he signs somewhere else, or we made the trade for Austin and LeBron retires, you still got to play with Luka, and that looks nuts. That looks nuts. So, no, I don't think the Lakers are going to do that. I don't think so. I don't think that makes any sense at all. So, yeah, man. We've concluded on this channel he's likely going to be a Wizard, and if he goes to the Wizards, he'll get his bag. They'll re-sign him, and they have the assets to build around him something different. They can start moving all this young piece stuff if they want to, bring him some older guys. Washington actually has the assets to make a trade for a Anthony Davis after bringing in a Trae Young in theory. They can end that win later timeline immediately if they want to. And that's the good thing about having your picks and having young players. Everybody wants that stuff. You can go really get anybody available. They can do a lot of different things. They can make a trade with Sacramento and bring themselves DeMar DeRozan. You know what I'm saying? They can go get Trae Young. They can do a lot of different stuff with the picks and players and stuff like that, expiring contracts that they got. So they can change the thing around, but, how far do you think you're going to get? I guess is what I'll ask him. How far? Nobody's beating OKC, so it doesn't really matter what you do, honestly. And then when OKC happens to fall off, nobody's beating Wemby, in my opinion. So it's going to be tough for y'all teams, man, all of us. It's going to be very tough. Yeah, man. Yeah, so that's what I got to say. If I'm him, I add Dallas to the list. I keep them intrigued. I make them think that they should be on board with this because him and Cooper Flag, to me, looks like a pair that could really be fun for years to come. Dallas really needs a point guard. Yeah. They may not be as wealthy as the Washington Wizards as it pertains to picks in their future. So if you're thinking outward, the Wizards have more assets, but how much of that stuff has to go in a trade for you? So I don't know. What I will give Trae Young credit for is having a vision for him being a solution to a franchise. I am a franchise player. A team may suck to hell right now, but if you send me there, suddenly we good. I like that idea because a lot of players don't have that type of vision. They want to go somewhere that's already established. You know what I mean? A lot of guys who want to make trades, who demand trades, they want to go places that already have stuff in place. But you're a superstar, and you're going to want all the usage. So you just really need to have a vision for the complementary pieces you need around you. And I think Trae Young has shown a propensity in putting Washington on this list to have that vision. So I definitely give him credit for that. And I think it's the right idea, too. He knows he's a one-man band. He knows that. So going to the Washington Wizards probably ain't bad if he's getting the touches he's been getting. So yeah, man, I think with that being said, it probably will be Chocolate City, man. I think Chocolate City can make a move. Like I said, I have to look at the trade machine to see what works. But as far as I could tell, that seems like a good pairing for now, and a place where he could potentially get his check. A rich team, pick wise and asset wise. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that looks like a good situation if you have the vision for it. So, yeah, I think he ends up there. But this whole Laker Celtic thing, that's in place to stiff arm other teams. You know? That's all that is. Those fits don't make any sense unless those teams do a huge overhaul on what they have. And the Lakers have no business doing that right now. And the Celtics have really no incentive to do that at all with what they have in place, playing so well without Jason Tatum. You know what I'm saying? You get Jason Tatum back, and they're automatically a top 2 team in the Eastern Conference. You know what I mean? Like, they could, if Jason Tatum actually comes back this season and he looks like himself, they could probably win the championship, or at least be up there with OKC next to him. You know what I'm saying? So, if I'm the Celtics, I'm not touching this unless I'm moving Simons out for something that makes a lot of sense. And moving Simons out for Trae Young, hell yeah, you love the upgrade, but it's not going to equate to anything that actually makes sense, really. And then you got to try to pay Trae Young, which makes no sense given what they have on contract already. So, yeah, no, I'm not moving Derek White for him. That's not happening. I think it's going to sound a little crazy, but I think he's more likely to be a Laker than he is to be a Celtic. Because I think the Celtics have absolutely no business moving any of the stuff that they got going on with this situation looking as it is. I don't see that. He got a greater chance of being a Laker and us moving Austin Reeves for him, which I do not think we're going to do at all, than he does for them moving Derek White for him or Jaylen Brown. I don't see nothing like that being possible. So, Anthony Simons, I don't see Atlanta going for that at all. They might as well go for Quigley if they're going to do that. So, yeah, no, he ain't going to be no Celtic or a Laker in my opinion. And like I said, Miami, it just depends on if you have a taste for what they have. Do I have a taste for what Miami has? No. Does Atlanta? Maybe. Maybe they love Tyler Hero. Maybe they love the idea of bringing Bam Adebayo to that situation. They probably not going to do it. But I'm just saying, if you really love Jaime Hawkins, a combination of Jaime Hawkins, Andrew Wiggins, and picks may intrigue a team, you know? It don't do it for me. And so I'm looking through my lens when I look at Miami stuff. I'm just not interested. But hey, you may be. BDL 44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.